Welcome back to Perfectly Clear. I'm Doug Taylor, and I'm joined today by producer and co-host Angie. Today we have another powerful Q&A session, and this time we're going deeper. In today's episode, we answer some of your most layered and nuanced and intuitive questions, from dream visitations and phantom senses to tech glitches during readings and the ethics of sharing messages. We're pulling back the curtain on what really goes on in the world of mediumship and spiritual connection. If you've ever wondered what happens behind the scenes or wanted clarity on those subtle signs from spirit, this one's definitely for you.
So we've had a lot of great questions being submitted over the past few months, even at this point, since our last Q&A. So I think it's best if we just kind of dive right in. What do you think?
Great idea. I think based on a lot of the episodes that we've put out over the course of the season, we seem to be getting quite a few questions for today's episode.
Yeah, and there's some that overlap. So we're going to try to dive a little bit deeper into a few of them and explore some of the different, like we said, nuances around them. So throughout the season, we've had some of our guests mention things around downloads versus spirit communication. So what is the difference between intuitive downloads and spirit communication?
I think the thing with intuitive downloads is that we mentioned it right from episode 1 on clairsenses. Intuition itself comes from a lot of the clairsenses, whereas mediumship or seeing spirit itself, I think that's a whole new realm. So is it a universal source? Yeah, I think it is. What's your take on it?
Yeah, I think that sometimes we are able to receive messages or perceive things in different ways, right? So like you said, whether that's from spirit communication, I might receive a message and be able to interpret, or maybe not even have to interpret what is being said to me from a spirit. And then on the other side of that, we might have something that's more intuitively based, tapping into those senses that we're receiving that type of feeling or thought or emotional response or just a knowing. And that tends to come in a slightly different way, but still we're receiving bits of communication, right? We're still receiving those pieces. So downloads versus spirit communication really for me is the difference between just connecting with an actual spirit itself versus tapping into the intuition.
Correct. That's exactly how I feel. And how can you tell them apart is amazing, because again, if I've been in a room and I say, geez, I've been in this room before, which I really haven't, that is a clear sense. Whereas if I see spirit, and we talked about that on, I think, episode 9 on mediumship, where spirit comes in a different situation, a different form almost. So, I mean, I know I can definitely tell them apart, whether it's intuition or whether it's mediumship or some spirit looking to contact myself or someone to deliver a message.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, I think kind of like within there too, and we've had a lot of questions around these types of like phantom senses. Are there these phantom smells, touches, or sounds that are messages? So people will use the word like phantom, but really it's a clairsense, right?
Yes.
Is what it actually is. So we are given pieces of insight through our clairsenses. So I know I often have a sense around taste. Not as much scent. I know you often will smell.
Oh, big time.
Yeah.
Lately, it's just very, very overpowering. No matter, I shouldn't say all day long, but I smell smoke I smell like cigarette smoke.
Yeah.
And I got an idea of who the person is trying to give me a message. But the smoke, the smell of smoke is one that's very big, especially right now. Taste is another one, like a sour taste in my mouth. If I see or know spirits coming, and that person has crossed with a violent ending, whether it be a sudden impact, then it's almost like taste of blood in my mouth. And so those senses again, are they phantom smells? I don't know. Touches is another thing. I mean, we all, whether we see it or not, we do have spirit around us or angels around us. And they do touch us from time to time. And you can either feel it or as a medium, you can actually see someone touching someone.
Yes. Yeah. It's funny because there are lots of times where I will see someone being touched by a spirit, physically a hand on their shoulder or a brush pass or something, and they'll have a reaction. And I'm like, oh, yep. They actually felt that. They tapped into that one. It's really interesting to see that. We also, I've been getting a lot of questions lately, especially after our last couple of episodes around, the different shifts that have gone on planetarily.
Yes. And big ones coming this year, right?
Yes. Huge ones coming this year. 2026 is going to be a big moving year. In terms of numerology, it's a very important year. It's a 1 because 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 6 is 10. So it's a very important year. And I think we're going to dive into that next season a little bit more numerologically, because I am far from an expert on that. But we have a very big moving year. And what's happened as we've wrapped up 2025 with all these huge shifts, we've had supermoons and retrogrades and planetary alignments and so much that we have had dreams really being affected. And a few of our guests have commented on their dreams have been really intense or crazy or wild or very vivid. I've been experiencing it. Friends of mine, family members of ours, lots of very intense dreams. So we had a few questions around specifically dreams. With that being said, one of the questions that stood out the most was they asked, do dreams of loved ones always mean that they visited us? And how can we tell when it's just a dream versus an actual spirit connection? Okay,
so for me, we all miss our loved ones. And do we dream about them? Absolutely. We all do in some way, shape, or form. What transpires in that dream, for instance, if a loved one or someone you know that's passed and you're having a picnic or a barbecue or you're going to a movie or whatever, that's a dream.
Yeah.
If the spirit is there to meet you face on, to tell you something, like if there's a forgiveness for something that they did, or maybe something that you didn't do, that's a visitation.
Yeah.
So to me, there's a distinct line in the sand.
Yeah.
What is a dream and what is a visitation?
Yeah.
And have we all had visitations? I believe so. But we've all had dreams about somebody that's passed.
Yeah.
Because it's an inner reflex as to how we handle the grief.
Yes. Yeah, I think that was kind of nail on the head. I have had dreams and I'm a very vivid dreamer in general. I remember most of my dreams all the time. So I know I've had a huge amount of dreams of people in my life, people that have passed, people just in my past life, like all kinds of things. But I've also had many, many visitations, and I've had many visitations of people. I shouldn't say many. I've had a few visitations of people who have passed very, very, very recently, like that day. Then I've had a visitation and it's confirmed to me that they had passed and that they came to say a message or a goodbye or
Correct.
a reassurance.
Yeah. And it doesn't always happen immediately at that
does not.
time.
Yeah.
And we can get into where spirit actually transports to after after a passing, but I don't necessarily think there is a connection immediately after a visitation, immediately after a passing. How long does that take? I don't know. I do know from my past experience, it took me probably for one particular visitation that I got because there was guilt on my part. And it was probably a good 5-6 years before the visitation that basically gave me the peace of mind of what actually happened is okay now. So.
Yeah. And I think it's important to remember too that we can have standard dreams. We can have a vision in a dream.
Correct.
And we can have a visitation in a dream.
Yes.
Yeah, because there's lots of those things where you maybe wake up and like, that was a weird dream. And then it comes to fruition later that day or in a week or in a month or in a year or whatever that looks like. Or you get that sense of like almost deja vu, right? As well, from whether that was in a dream or maybe you saw something while in waking moments as well. With that as well, in terms of deja vu, a lot of people have asked, what is the difference between deja vu and having a vision?
I'll let you answer that first of all, and then I'll put my 2 cents worth in.
I have a more of a woven answer, I guess. So I think some people will experience deja vu, and it's because they've actually tapped into a sense previously.
Yes. Okay.
And they're seeing something that's coming to fruition from something that they might have seen before.
And don't forget, I mean, we are all different as far as mediums or clairvoyants or psychic readers or connections. So what you see and feel and how I may see and feel or interpret these things are entirely different altogether.
Yes.
We can agree on things, but then again, we can agree to disagree on things.
Yeah. Yeah. I think other times we do have these little pieces again. If you're saying you have deja vu, maybe it's something that you've seen in a dream. You've had something that's come to fruition from having been in a dream. It's all, I think for me, I view it as interpretation of you're trying to put a label on something that you're experiencing, and it gets kind of lumped in together as deja vu.
And with deja vu too, I mean, isn't it a lot of the clairsense of claircognizance?
Yes.
I mean, deja vu is I've been here, like this has occurred before. Well, this is claircognizance. We know it. We don't know how we know it.
We just know it. I know. This is what I think is that, people experience something. They're like, I've been here before. I know I've seen this. And they're like, oh, it's just deja vu. But it's actually a clairsense. Or like I said, sometimes if they think, oh, this is deja vu, what they're seeing something that they've seen fully in its entirety. And it could just be coming back up from, like I said, a dream or a more even a clear sense that they've had and they've dismissed. Correct.
I think so. I think you're 100% right. So what else is in the bag of questions today?
So someone sent us a message through the website on mediumship from our last or one of our last episodes.
Okay.
So they had asked, can you communicate with someone still alive through mediumship? Is this crossing into more viewing of someone, or is it a quote energetic imprint reading?
I don't know if I'm going to answer this correctly or not. I mean, if you're reading someone, you are still communicating with them through mediumship, right?
Yeah.
Because if you sit down with somebody and you see what's happened in their past, what they're currently going through, or what may happen in the future. So to me, yes, you can still communicate with someone that's still alive through mediumship. People go and see psychics or mediums or readers all the time.
Yeah.
And they're looking for, you always have a question. They're not there because they've got nothing better to do on a Saturday afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
They're there for a specific reason. And they may walk around until one of those mediums actually draw them
Yes.
to the person. So I definitely think you do communicate, not still, but you do communicate with people who are still alive through mediumship.
I guess the only difference is that you're not like having essentially a conversation with someone through that type of channel, right? You're connecting with spirit and they're giving you messages about that person that you're then communicating with them.
That's a good thought. However, you've gone into restaurants, and I keep saying restaurants because it's just like, it's like the mother lode of all connection for me. Why? I do not know. But, I can go in and I can tell somebody there exactly what they've been through and what's going on. And it doesn't necessarily, it's not a spiritual, it's
that's
not
very
spirit.
Interesting. Yeah, that's very interesting because you are reading someone. You're communicating with them. You're being presented with messages and visions, tastes, senses of all types. But it's not like you're having, like I said, like a conversation necessarily through that different channel, but you are fully communicating with their life, I guess.
Yes. And you know what? You might not even be talking to that individual, but you see it all flowing from past, present, and future in some cases.
So we've both had these experiences. And so someone had asked about like the ethics around reading. And I've had so many conversations around like ethical readings and reading people. And is it an invasion of privacy to do this? It can be, and it is a very tricky thing because we don't ask for these pieces of information, essentially. If we're going about our daily life, I'm just trying to go about my daily life. Sometimes we're given access to things that we're not asking for.
Correct.
We don't want to see even.
Correct.
And that's why a lot of psychics and mediums will try and block things out. Will try and put up some walls so that they don't have to be inundated with, especially with spirit. Specifically, I find that's the hardest one for me, is to try and block out spirit. Because sometimes you just want to go through your day. You don't want to necessarily be having to deliver a message every 5 seconds, right?
No. And depending on the message, and I think we've talked with a lot of our past guests, and we do have boundaries to a certain extent. I mean, if I see something very, very, very negative in somebody that I'm reading, I won't deliver the message. But I won't say, oh, by the way, something bad's going to happen. I can't tell you.
Yeah.
I would never do that. I would say, okay, we're going to take a break here. We're going to take a breath, but I'm sorry, but I don't see anything else.
Yes.
And is that unethical? Because you obviously do, but I don't think that's a message that needs to be delivered that can alter someone's current life because you have a message or you see a message.
Yeah. I do kind of toe that line as well, where I don't necessarily want to provide insight into something that might change or too severely impact someone. I don't want them to be scared or feel like they can't live their life the way that they want to live their life for fear of, in 10 years time, XYZ is going to happen. Or, if something's going on and I have a sense of something, I might say, especially if there's an older family member in their family, but you might want to consider spending some more time with this person, or, I can see maybe a shift coming in the next couple of years, or I would check in on them. But it is very difficult because you don't want to give horrible news. You don't want to insert yourself into extremely private things either.
No, I mean, I'll give you a story here, a quick story. Years ago, and I'm probably saying 30 years ago, thereabouts, I was reading somebody, not at a fair or anything like that. And this person had had a very horrific childhood, very horrific. And I'll leave it at that. It was very upsetting for me. And I was reading this person up to a certain point, and then the door opened on these events of their childhood. And I just stopped the reading. I said, I'm sorry, I can't see anymore.
Yeah.
And that was in their past.
Yeah.
Now, that person has long since passed themselves, but that wasn't needed to be brought up at a reading. And not only for that aspect or that person, but there were other people around, and that does not. No. It's not ethical. It's not something that needs to be out there. So that's my take on messages that I may not want to give.
Yeah. Or if you do have that unexpected item pop up of how to navigate that was great. Another question is in regards to that kind of classic spirit chill or shiver. What do they mean? And is it always a confirmation of a visitation? So really, I guess, can the body be used as a sort of tool for divination, right?
Yeah, I think it can be. We've had people like Daniel Rocha on, and he's very adamant about the body being like that tuning fork, that channel.
It is,
and I agree with him.
Me too.
Listening to our round table, a lot of that comes to light.
Yeah,
so, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
That was a short answer.
Yeah, I think that's our most concise one.
Exactly.
Yeah. In terms of spiritual hygiene, what does that type of routine look like? I know for me, I can sometimes be sometimes I'm lazy. Sometimes I just don't have a chance to do any type of hygiene. So what we mean is hygiene is, do you cleanse before or after a reading? Do you smudge? Do you use visualizations or even meditative baths or other forms of meditation, journaling, whatever that looks like to kind of get yourself cleansed or prepared for any type of reading or interaction?
Beforehand, I think just being grounded for myself and a little bit laid back, a little bit relaxed. I know people that they'll do a sound bowl or they'll do some smudging or other things, a meditation, prayer. Immediately after a reading, and depending on the length of the reading and the number of readings, it is very draining. So the cleansing afterwards is more like just winding down and clearing and cleansing your mind and your emotions and physical being,
and resetting the energy
in your
space too.
Yes.
Yeah. I do like to smudge. Sometimes I get a chance to smudge before, and I'll smudge my space. But afterwards, I like to smudge myself and kind of sit within that and really ground myself there. I don't do it as frequently as I probably should, because sometimes I end up falling into this trap of I don't mean to read, but then it starts coming out and I'm already into it. So it is what it is. And then I'm very tired after. But having good hygiene can help preserve your energy for sure.
Now, I'm going to ask you this question that came up, and because I have a bit of an answer to it too, is have you ever had tech act up in ways that felt spiritual? Basically, can spirits mess with your phones, lights, or even audio gear? And quite frankly, do electronics interfere with readings or spirit energy?
So I've never had something interfere with a reading, but I've had those things be interfered with by the reading. So I've never had electronics like disable me from reading, but I've had electronics or lights or radios or those types of things be affected by spirit and by readings.
Oh, okay. So, and I know that I don't know if this is the same, but if you're reading somebody, you don't want to be listening to heavy metal.
No.
So, I mean, as far as that's concerned, if you can remove the tech,
Yes.
the phone, the music,
really pare
even the
everything
lights.
down.
I mean, it's got to be pared down because you're trying to make that connection. Now, has something happened during a reading with electronics or tech? Not that I can recall. I mean, could possibly, but I don't think that there's a place for interference during a reading. If you want a real reading, you don't need loud music. You don't need a crowded place, everybody yelling and screaming. I mean, it's quiet. It should be quiet.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No, I've never had anything happen while reading. So we both read similarly. It's very, very pared down, like we said, very quiet. At most, maybe some very, very soft music in the background just to keep the energy and mood nice and relaxed. And typically I'm a more of a one-to-one reader, very, 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 very small group type style. But I've had, many experiences of a light flicker or, a radio turn on.
In that case,
turn on.
Yes, I agree. I agree.
But
yes,
very
definitely.
separate to a reading. I feel if they're trying to communicate with me, they're going to do it in a different way.
Yeah, they'll find a way.
Exactly.
One thing about spirit is they're more creative than we are.
Exactly. They don't. If I'm in the middle of a reading, and if they're not connecting with me in the way that I should be connecting with them in a reading, then they're probably not going to connect with me at that point. They don't need to go through that type of channel. Okay, so we also had we've had about 3 questions now that kind of are the same that were submitted. So people are wondering, have you ever received a message that made no sense and then years later it clicked?
Gee, let me think about that. Yes, 100%. I don't know if you know the story, but I'll give you, for instance. So when I was in grade 7, which was a few years ago, I had a vision. It's this really crazy vision that I was going to meet somebody named Nancy. And all I could see, in cards, was like what do you call gift cards? Not gift cards. Christmas cards. That's Nancy and Doug. And for years, whenever I saw Nancy, which I didn't see a lot of them, I thought, is this one? And then probably 30 odd years later, your mother walked into my life, and her name is Nancy. So that's just one small thing that I'm willing to share. But yes, it happens a lot. It happens even when I'm reading other people. They'll say, no, you've had it too. No, you don't know what you're talking about. And then down the line, and it could be anywhere between minutes, hours, days, weeks, months, years, that they come back and they've said, yeah, you know what? This is true.
I think you have to sometimes just trust the intuition and kind of the divine timing of it all. Things will come to fruition when it's ready to come to fruition.
Absolutely.
So something that we had, especially we had a question after we had Sandy or Sneska on, was do tarot cards, cups, beans, etc., or even, I guess, crystals, choose their person, or can anyone work with any of those things?
Well, I think if you listened to our last episode with Claudia on crystals, she was very adamant that crystals choose you.
Yes.
So that part, yes. Tarot cards, I believe that, and you could speak more to tarot, but I believe, again, that if there's a room of 10 tarot readers, period, nobody else, you will be picked by that tarot deck, as opposed to, oh, I like this person. No, that's not what's drawing you. What's drawing you is the deck.
I even find, because I have multiple decks, I find that certain times I'm drawn to a specific deck. versus a different deck. I find that sometimes one deck will give me better insight into something than I feel like no energy towards another deck that day. And then on deciding what kind of modality to use in a reading, because I know Sandy is very diverse.
Yeah, there's a good word. Yeah. Jinx.
Very diverse in her readings. And we had chatted about this in our roundtable episode.
Yes.
Where really you have to go where the energy is, and your intuition is going to tell you where you're going to be able to connect the best. So just really trusting your intuition on that one. And we had a really great question earlier this season that we wanted to answer in terms of the sound healing with Daniel. So they asked, what do you think about frequency sound healing? There are plethoras of audios on YouTube. For example, listening to binaural beats for healing or 528 hertz frequency audios. Do they actually work?
So, and speaking with Daniel, because he's the expert at this, I will give you the short version.
Perfect.
Yes, because Daniel can explain it.
He's so detailed with
yes,
it. Yeah.
Right to the nth degree. But the answer is yes. Daniel believes listening to any sound itself, it can work for the individual. And this particular individual that sent this question has also sent us some other emails telling us how well they like the show that we do, and hopefully one day we can meet this individual.
Yeah.
So,
wow. Well, I think that wraps up all the questions for our second Q&A this season. So thank you so much to everyone for tuning into this episode. Your questions truly keep the space alive, evolving, and really incredibly deeply personal.
And before we even wrap it completely up, Angie, our next show is our year-end review.
Yeah.
And listeners should really jump onto that episode to find out where we've been, where we're going, and what's in our future for the show. So the spiritual path isn't always linear, and sometimes the most potent guidance comes in the quietest, strangest ways. We hope this conversation gave you clarity, validation, and maybe even a nudge to lean into your own knowing. Whether you're here to learn, to connect, or to feel a little less alone, we're so grateful you're listening. And as always, until next time, stay open, stay curious, and trust what you feel.